And we are live.
What is up, everybody? I am College Football Headlines, also known as Tate. I'm here with my good friend Chandler, who also co-runs the account and makes awesome content on the other social media platforms besides Twitter and Twitter sometimes. But today is the first episode of the College Football Headlines podcast, weekly show, daily show, just chopping it up, talking about college football, on the field, off the field, and what's going on in the world and how the college football landscape is ever changing and the direction it's moving in. So today we got a little bit of a mix for y'all. As we get close to the season, we are also getting close to the ever so eagerly desired return of EA college football. We are less than 40 days. I think we're at like 36 or
Yeah, something like
35.
that. I think it's close to that. Yeah.
I think yesterday might have been 37. It's within that, just those few number range, but we are ever so close to the return of one of the best games to hit the market and a staple of many's childhood or just, gaming career, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people still play NCAA 14, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's EA. So we got that for y'all today, and then we got going over some rankings and talking about some teams that could really sneak up and not necessarily, win it all, but when it comes down to the crunch time of W's and L's and, you know, what you need on your schedule, these teams could really mess some things up and build up a resume in a sneaky way for themselves. And then on the flip side of that, we have one team that we think will disappoint from each of us. And then, yeah, that's really it. So, how you doing, Chandler?
I'm doing great, man. We've been been waiting to really record this. It's been a long time coming. Been a long talk about it, but we're finally really starting to do it, and it's awesome. And as you mentioned, the college football game coming out, and I saw a tweet. I can't remember from what account, but it was asking about what was your favorite memory from NCAA 14 since we're about to be, laying that one to rest like we laid the Pac-12 to rest last night. And
Yeah.
it's just I don't know, man. I just like for all these years we've just been talking about how we just wanted one more game, just one more game. We just take one more game, and now we're gonna get them every year again. It's truly a. I mean, I don't want to say a dream come true, but it's something that we were all hoping for, and we finally got it. It's just really cool to see. I couldn't be more excited.
I think the EA, like, how they had to pay, what they paid the players again? It was like,
It's like 600 a piece.
like 600 a piece. Now that I look at that, I think that is the largest NIL deal. I mean, now obviously not team or player specific, but like as a whole, if you go add up the amount of players and, you know,
If you add it
obviously
up,
it's
it's a
not
lot of money.
coach. Yeah, it is a lot.
It's a
Like
lot of money.
I definitely have seen a couple of posts in that, you know, just to get the base of the game. I mean, just the name for the players to opt in. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that was a lot of money. So, um, man, um,
I,
before we get in on that, we are 75 days on the dot away from FSU playing Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland to kick off the season.
man, I can't wait. I mean, I know we were just talking about how we can't wait for the college football game, but we say it every year when we get to about this point. I cannot wait for the season to start. And if you look on the screen right now, we have this awesome graphic made by Mr. Tate. Thank you for this. I think it looks sick, personally. He tried to put, just a big variety of players on here to really represent everybody. And I mean, we got Missouri, LSU, Liberty, Ole Miss, Georgia, Bama, UNLV, Memphis, Arizona, Texas, Ohio State. You name it, it's on here, right? I truly can't wait. And I mean, I can't lie to you. If I was a Florida State fan or a Georgia Tech fan, I'd be a little upset that my game was in Ireland. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be a little upset because like I can't go watch that. I ain't got money like that to go overseas to watch a college football game. I ain't got money like that. But still cool. It's still a cool experience. I'd just be a little upset if it was my home game being taken away, but that's just me.
I mean, some people got money like that, so.
Hey, some people do. Which it was packed last year, wasn't it, for the Northwestern game? Or was that Northwestern?
It was no Northwestern Notre Dame. I mean, I remember I was super hyped just to watch the game, just for the season to get back.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like peak fraudulent Notre Dame being top 10 season, every offseason and like at the beginning of the year. But I mean, I don't know like what the background of like having a game in Ireland is. Obviously, there has to be some for, a game to go international like that and be played there, in consecutive years. But
Yeah.
the stadium that they played it at, I mean, it was a perfect size for a college football game. It didn't look really it didn't really look out of character or out of proportion. It was, I mean, everything really went fine. And, obviously it wasn't a high flying, high scoring game by any means from Northwestern to Notre Dame, but like, I didn't really have any complaints. So I'm fine with it. I mean, it was on NBC. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if the point is to grow the game, then I do get it, and I think it's really cool. But I would be like if I don't know who the home team is. I'm gonna assume it's Georgia Tech, but like if Georgia was losing a home game because we were playing a game in like London, I'd be a little upset. I like I'd be a little upset. I can't lie to you.
Right. But so 75 days on the dot away until college football. We all are eagerly awaiting, the season. I just want to have something to watch on the TV that is enjoyable and high flying. So I'm ready. I don't care what game it is. It could be MAC action in the snow, 0-0 in the third quarter. No passes. I'll watch it. I don't care. But the thing that is the closest on the calendar is EA CFB, which we talked about a little bit earlier. We are 36 or 35 or 37, one of those numbers. We are just a few weeks away from the return of one of the best games of all time. And last week they did what they called a deep dive of gameplay. It was not very long. I don't think it was very much of a deep dive. I think your reference to a dive into Shadowland was very accurate.
This is more like a belly flop, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a belly flop because it didn't flop. I mean, I was still hyped, but
Oh no, I just meant how deep it went. Is it didn't go deep at all,
yeah.
but I did take a bunch of notes from it, and I'm gonna talk about it. But like, it with what me and you were kind of thinking, it was like gonna be like some really in depth, like really talking about it, really going into detail, like they kind of do with a lot of other video games. Which I do get it's college football, so like, I mean, how much can you really talk about the game? Like I do get it from that point. It's not like there's some kind of story. It's not some story-driven game like an Elden Ring or something like that. Like I do understand that, but I thought it'd be a little more than 5 minutes.
I mean, if they're gonna call it a deep dive into gameplay, I mean, at least mention that you're just like, at least just tell us the truth, because I mean, like, I guess there's like that college ultimate team mode. They didn't speak on that, or if they did, Kirk Herbstreit, who obviously it was a pre-recorded thing, just a little script, hardly mentioned it. I don't think they really mentioned much, if anything at all, about Road to Glory, or Glory as it's just called, because there's no road. You start in college, which I'm iffy on, but at this point I'll just take the game being back. And
Yep.
then
I wrote down all of the points that they had in the video. If you want me to go over it real quick.
I did like the why don't we start on this one? What did you think about like all the excessive attributes that can like give you an advantage or like put you at a disadvantage immediately? I'm curious if you can like, if there's a way to, I guess, upgrade or like, grind to negate those things, like the home field advantage. Like I feel like
Well, the
it
home
should
field
be something.
advantage is going to be like a separate. Well, I mean, yes, technically it'll be built into your quarterback, like how they are able to handle home field advantage like that. Like they said it in the thing, and then I was reading some stuff too, and it was talking about how the quarterback will have a certain attribute. I couldn't tell you what the name of it is. I didn't write that down, but depending on what level it is, like if it's like a lower level, then if you remember back in NCAA, the old NCAA games, about how the lines would squiggle or would wiggle, excuse me,
Yeah,
stuff like
they
that.
had that.
Yeah, so that'll happen, and there's okay. My thing about the abilities, it'll depend on how OP they are, right? So like in Madden, there's an ability to where you can see which blitzers are coming, um, the defense that's being ran. I believe I don't know if you can see it that far, but I do know that there's an ability, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be in college football too, where you can see the blitzers and you can see like just key things about a defense that like obviously you wouldn't be able to see in a real game. And I think that that's going to be OP because that's like the whole thing, right? And I believe it also said that you're going to be able to pick up a disguise defense. So like
Yeah.
if you're running a uh, cover two, but you're actually running a cover three and you're just showing cover two, like you're going to be able to do that. But at the same time, there's going to be an ability by certain top quarterbacks that can pick that up, and I think that's going to be broken. Like I think that that shouldn't be a thing because like what's the point in disguising it if you can just read it, right? Like that defeats the whole purpose of it. So I think that's a little redundant to have, and I think it's a little stupid to me because like that's not something that you can pick up on. Like if somebody's running a cover three, or excuse me, if they're showing a cover two, you're not gonna be like, oh, they're running cover three. Like no, that's not how that works. That's not how life works. And I get it's a video game, but it's to me that's where like the OP comes in, and that's where I feel like they could have went wrong. But we'll see how OP the attributes are. I believe that there's around 80. I was watching a guy that had played it. He's talking about it in a YouTube video. He said that there's a lot, and I believe 80 was the number that he used, but I think there's more than that. So we'll see. It's
Some will come, some will come, some will go.
that's what I had wrote down in my notes about the player attributes, and I put in parentheses. I said where it could get bad, and I said depending on how advantageous these are, it could be a good mesh or really ruin the game when using some teams. And I said with how many there are, there's bound to be a few attributes that are OP. And yes, there needs to be a gap, but the extent of that could ruin the game if one player can beat a team of 55s, right? And which is like the thing. I mean, I understand that Travis Hunter, if he was playing like a throwback real quick, if he was playing like FCS Southeast, right? Like he could probably just do a lot and beat him by himself. But at the same time, like if one of my friends is using Buffalo and I'm using Colorado, like and Travis Hunter's abilities are literally just helping me win this game. I don't feel like that's fair. I don't know. It's just me. It's just my thing. I hope the abilities aren't that much. Sorry to keep yapping, but I'm like actually concerned about that. You brought up my biggest concern about the game.
No, it's all good. It's all good, but I'm excited. The graphics look awesome. I mean, obviously, we're in the age of technology, and graphics get, that's basically what the advertisement is these days of new technology. I mean, iPhones aren't really changing that much anymore. Just better camera quality, better graphics from your camera. I mean, Madden hasn't changed much. Better graphics.
Yeah, or you could you could go to the 2K route and just keep adding sweat every year.
Yeah, but
they literally
yeah,
just
I
show.
mean, that's what they do.
Yeah,
That's what they do. I was agreeing with you.
dude, it's so funny. They literally just
Yeah.
add sweat every single time. No, but I for me, I really like the home field advantage stuff. I think it should be a big factor because, like, whenever you think about college football, like home field advantage is one of the biggest things about college football. I mean, like bigger than the NFL. Like it's more important in college football than the NFL.
I agree.
And what do you think about it being like? Because it looks pretty OP. Like it looks like it's going to be like a pretty important factor. So do you think that's a good thing, or do you think that's a bad thing?
That's what I was trying to say. I don't think it's a bad thing by any means. I mean, obviously, home field advantage, it's college, your environment's going to be rowdy. But what I was trying to say earlier is I just hope that there's a level of, counter to it so you can like, so it's not so lopsided. Like if you're the away team, you're at like an immediate disadvantage, like regardless of how good your players are, like what attributes you have. Like if there's a way to, I mean, just like calm down the crowd and just like see your plays and not have like the lines be so squiggly. I mean, like I'm not talking anything like put the crowd on mute, but like, just make it fair.
Well,
That's really all I was saying.
yeah, I think the system that they may go for is like a momentum type system, and that's what they do in Madden. So like, if you're the away team and you're scoring, like say you're up 2 touchdowns, like the crowd's not going to be that loud, like you're not going to have the effects that would normally come with a raucous crowd, right? But say you're tied and they get an interception, their their momentum meter goes up, and they may unlock like a certain home field advantage or something like that. Like maybe that's when
And
they
that's
unlock
real.
the squiggly lines. You know what I mean? Because that's what
And
happens
that's
in Madden.
real.
Except
Hmm.
they don't have the like squiggly line things. Because I mean, there's only a couple like true home field advantages for the NFL. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
I could name them
But
off the top of my head, but
um so that's pretty much all that we have seen. I mean, people have been making videos, EA flew down a pretty good amount of content creators, other people that aren't necessarily content creators that are just big voices in the college football world. Um, they've all played the game. They all say it's phenomenal. The devs have been tweeting out. So, I mean, from the product I've seen, I really can't be too disappointed. Obviously, no mascot mashup is disappointing, but at the same time, the game is about the players, not running around as a 7 foot tall Stanford tree. So, um, that's pretty much it for EA. I'm sure they'll have at least I'm gonna say two. They've got to have. I mean, they got to have some more insight on at least the college ultimate team and Glory, because I haven't really touched on those. So there's got to be a little preview about something to keep the anticipation high. But
Mhm.
with that, we can go into the rankings of teams in the CFH top 25.
I got them
Now,
pulled up right here. It's
I'm
on the
looking
screen.
at them. I am looking at them as well. But now, before we get started, um, going up and down the list, and just so you know, I'll go ahead and do it, Chandler. These rankings are a mix of momentum going into the season based off of what they gained via the portal. Obviously, you lose some people via the portal, you replace some people via the portal, unless you're Clemson. But this is off of
But
momentum, not necessarily how you finished last year, because last year is last year in the past, and how your schedule plays out to your advantage with the new era of divisionless football we are in. So, I mean, there's some teams that have some really favorable schedules in here. I mean, I can go ahead and just say one.
there's one in
It's
the
off the
top
top.
5.
I mean, yeah, I'll just wait for it till we get to the team. But we got Georgia at number one, playoff snub last year. Did really well via the portal. I got some really experienced guys at receiver. Carson Beck's coming back. That offensive Kirby's, I mean, he just recruits giants. Offensive line, defensive line, and Dogs are the dogs, man. They're the top dog in college football with, Saban retiring and, obviously Kirby being what is now being appointed the new face of college football.
You
They're
know,
the standards.
yeah, and as a Georgia fan myself, I always like hope that one day I could see this, but I at the same time like I try not to be like too. I don't know. I try not to like be like, yeah, we number one, because like obviously anything can happen, but I don't know. It's weird. I never thought that I would get to this point where like we're up. I mean, I don't want to say like a annual number one, but like we're at least top five, and I'd say that we're gonna be close to that or in that for the next 5 to 10 years, however long Kirby Smart's here, just from his recruiting. But like the point I'm trying to make is, I don't know. I try to be like, I mean, I guess humble. Like I don't know. I'm just a fan, but like, it's cool. I don't know. It's real cool, and
You don't want to jinx yourself.
yeah, and I also don't want to like talk too much and then it come back to bite me. But
Old takes exposed.
exactly, that exactly.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. But at number 2, we have Oregon. Oregon killed the transfer portal. Dante Moore made his way to Eugene. Eugene, however you want to say it. Should have went there out of high school, to be honest with you. He had his little stint with Chip Kelly at UCLA. Obviously, he got playing time. He got experience. Didn't kill him. Wasn't the best for him, but he made his way to Oregon. They also got Dylan Gabriel, and they pretty much retained their whole defensive line and then added Michigan State defensive tackle transfer. I can't. Hall is his last name. I'm forgetting his first name.
Oh, what is that guy's name? Oh my god.
I think it's Derek or.
Why do I keep thinking
Anyway,
Dante? I don't know.
It starts with the D, but anyway, very experienced defensive line. Obviously losing a couple guys to the draft. Bucky Irving. They lose the receiver. It wasn't Tez Johnson. Was it Tez Johnson?
Yeah.
I think it was Tez. Yeah, it was Tez. Tez went to the draft, got drafted. So he got Evan Stewart, 5-star talent out of the portal. He's been a little banged up at A&M. I think this is the right spot for him. And I mean, Dan Lanning is really built. I mean, comes from the Kirby tree. I mean, he's really built this Oregon program up very quickly, and they were my number one just because of depth and what they have at like every position. But the medium spot was 2, so we went with 2 for Oregon, and then what we inferred to earlier as a very favorable schedule. Number 3, Ohio State. I think Ohio State plays 2 hard games. They play Michigan, as they do every year. They are the clear-cut favorite to beat them this year for the first time in 3 years. And they play Oregon. And those are like their only 2 toss-up games. Like they are probably, if they don't get 10 wins, something really bad has happened at Ohio State. But
yeah, and they will. There is a chance that they have a pretty interesting game against Nebraska, but I'm not saying that Nebraska's going to win that game at all. I'm just saying that it could be like a top 20 match. There's a chance that Nebraska goes into that game undefeated, and then they leave that game defeated, like very badly. So just get ready for that.
Ohio State is notorious for having like those like skip a heartbeat type 2 times a game moments in like the middle of October for no reason. Like last year versus Rutgers, like they were like battling it out.
Dude, Rutgers was putting up a great fight because that was I was at a friend's house watching that game, and I remember that because I was like, come on, Rutgers.
Yeah. So Ohio State, they got Caleb Downs via the portal. They got Quinshon Judkins via the portal. They got Julian Sayin, 5-star quarterback freshman via the portal. He's probably not going to play this year, but was a short-term signee at Alabama. And then when Saban announced his retirement, he hit the portal. I guess you could call it hitting the portal. I don't really even
Yeah,
call it
I
that.
mean,
I don't even know if he took a class at
technically,
Alabama.
technically.
Yeah. Um,
What
he
is
went to Ohio State.
what's the quarterback recruit that they got? It's slipping my mind. I can't think of who it is. It's
Uh, Wa- uh, Will Howard.
no, the recruit that they just got. He just signed this year.
Taven St. Clair.
There's another one. He played in Georgia. He played it. Um, I don't think it was Grayson.
Aaron Noland.
Yes, Aaron Nolan.
So actually, now that you bring his name up, that's interesting. There was like a rumor that came out like literally yesterday or the day before that Aaron Noland was like taking time away from the team or something. It was completely like fake news, like some absolutely like clickbait story, and like unfortunately Aaron Noland's father had to like clear the air and stuff. I hate those types of situations. Like if you know it's fake news, like just why do that to a player and a family? But yeah, they have a star-studded quarterback room, but there's not been a star that has been standing out. That is a problem, which is why they went and got Will Howard from Kansas State, a veteran, big, athletic quarterback to place, and they are eyeballing the quarterback position like no other, because Kyle McCord went 11-1 and they booted him out of town.
Yep.
So Buckeyes are at 3, and Texas is at 4. Texas also did some good work in the transfer portal. Got Isaiah Bond, Amari Niblack from Alabama. There were some rumblings about a defensive tackle that was somewhere else, but he ended up not coming to Texas. That's really all I'm allowed to say. But they got a defensive tackle from Arizona to replace Charonde Sweat. Obviously a huge piece, huge body to replace. So got some depth there. And Quinn Ewers is back. I mean, Sark is recruiting. He's on fire. So Texas is very well Texas again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can replace that pass defense that really hurt them against Washington. Because going into that game, that was one of the weaknesses of that Texas team, and it kind of got exposed. I mean, Michael Penix was looking like Tom Brady out there, and
Yeah.
if they can shore that up, and they're able to replace the production in the run defense that Tafondre had, then they could probably win it. I mean, they could definitely win it all. Now they're gonna have to also replace all those weapons on the offense, X, AD. I mean, those are two huge parts of their offense. So it'll be interesting. I think that they have a pretty good O-line from what I've been told by Texas fans, and obviously Quinn's coming back, and they believe in Quinn. So sky's the limit for Texas if they can get it all to mesh.
Right. They also got a little bit of a sleeper wide receiver there in Jonte Cook. He was a big recruit out of high school, and he's kind of entering that stage of college where he's knocking on the door to to bloom. So watch out for him this season. And then at number 5, we have the portal destination of all portal destinations, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin went out and, I mean, he said it after they got whooped versus Georgia. I mean, he said that they don't even look right in their pads. He needs some size. He needs some grown, beefy men to be on his sideline. And boy, did they get that via the portal. They got Walter Nolan, the number 1 transfer portal prospect. I mean, 5-star all-world defensive tackle from A&M. They got Chris Hardy this spring, like double-digit sacks from Jacksonville State. They got Chris Paul Jr. from Arkansas, linebacker. They have Suntarine Perkins returning. But long story short, they also got Juice Wells via the portal and a couple of running backs. But Ole Miss is in very much good hands with Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart returning and all the They beefed up the offensive line, which was huge because, to say the least, I don't know how Jackson Dart did not have or get pulled for cautionary reasons concerning him having a concussion last year. Because, my God, he looked like deceased on the field more times than I wanted to see.
Yeah, I felt bad for him. There were points where I just kind of felt bad.
Like, I think there was like 3 instances where I can clearly detail, like, I'm pretty sure he was out cold, like, for a good couple of seconds
hmm.
last year. So they upgraded the offensive line depth and, talent, immensely for their quarterback. Because, I mean, Dart is a trooper. I mean, he took some beatings.
He really did.
But yeah, Ole Miss is definitely this is the biggest season in their school history, team history. So it's gonna be interesting to see.
For sure. And I
And
think
then
real quick,
go ahead.
I just wanted to brag on Juice Wells. After not really knowing who he was before that Georgia South Carolina game last year, and then watching him for the little bit that he did get to play because he got hurt in that game, but dude, that guy's special. That guy's really good, and I'm not saying that he's gonna have the greatest season of all time. I'm not gonna put that on him, but if we're talking about Bolitnikov winners, he could mess around and win it. He really could. He really could. I know that they have everybody in Ohio State. They're always going to have great receivers, and Texas has some really good ones coming in too. But Juice Wells is a dog. I'm just saying. If that offense is, explosive like it can be, that he could very well be. You know what? Actually, I'll stand on it. Juice Wells is winning the Bolitnikov. I'll say it right now.
Really?
Yep, I'll say it right
Trey
now.
Harris could do it too.
Clip it. All say
right.
it right now.
All right, we'll definitely note that. But let's keep it rolling. Number 6, top 10 team, no matter who's coaching them now, Alabama. I mean, I mean, when the news was announced Nick Saban was retiring, it was doomsday for Bama. But I don't think there was much fall off at all because what was really important, like, there's some people. Okay, Caleb Downs was obviously, like, you hate to see that leave, like, that talented player. Like, they tried their best to retain him. Like, it was a war between Georgia and Ohio State. Like, I mean, a last second buzzer beater war to get his services. So Caleb Downs left, but I mean, that front seven, that defensive line, like, I don't know why people haven't really, like, harped on this enough. Like, they had one guy transferred to, like, Virginia Tech, but, like, those guys didn't go anywhere. And those are really good, sought after players that were, definitely able to go anywhere they wanted to. So their trenches are fine. Caden Proctor had his little exploration back home to Iowa, came back. But I mean,
well, it'll be interesting for me to see. And Georgia's also in the same boat when I say this because they also lost 3 DBs. But it'll be interesting to see how they can replace Terrion, Caleb, and Kool-Aid. How they can replace all those guys. And I believe Kool-Aid, either Kool-Aid or Terrion was hurt in the SEC championship game. So they already started a little bit on that. We've already seen, who would be coming in behind them. And, yeah, it'll be and to say Georgia, because Georgia is also having to replace Kamari Lassiter, Javon Bullard, and Tyke Smith. So both teams are going to have to replace 3 starting DBs. So it'll be interesting.
So yeah, DeVore and Co. come in for the Tide, and roster's looking good. Vibes are high. The new era is, for what could happen. I think it's gone very smoothly. Mm-hmm. So on to number 7 with Notre Dame. Notre Dame is what we like to call the preseason hype fraudulent theme of all time. I can't really put words around it, but Notre Dame just kind of is Notre Dame. And
honestly, when you say that, it makes sense. I mean,
they don't play anybody.
They
I
don't.
mean, they have a couple of games on their schedule this year because like the agenda for like non-con games to actually be competitive, like I think that was like started in like 2017 or 2018, like the real agenda, like it's been pushed and it's been, it takes years because these games are scheduled so far in advance, but you're starting to see the effects of it now in real time, and it's slowly but surely getting to Notre Dame, and I mean, Fighting Irish. I mean, they got a real deal offensive coordinator, and Mike Denbrock is coming back to South Bend from LSU. Just led Jaden Daniels to a Heisman. Malik Neighbors. Um, who else was Brian Thomas? All first-round picks, and I think that's like really the piece that Notre Dame is just not. They haven't had like an OC that's like flashy.
Mm-hmm.
Like their OC last year was like a kind of last minute because Denbrock who was Alabama's OC last year? He was quarterbacks coach at Notre Dame.
Tommy Rees.
Tommy Rees, thank you. Tommy Rees left Notre Dame urgently or like suddenly to go to Bama. Obviously, short experiment, kind of same dull offense. And their OC is now the head coach at Troy. And Notre Dame's offensive coordinator last year is now the head coach at Troy. That's what I mean. And then, so they got a real deal offensive coordinator. And they have Riley Leonard. And they got some receivers that are very athletic via the portal. Now, they did lose a little bit of depth there, but I am optimistic about Marcus Freeman and the new era of Notre Dame not having those academic standards kind of always hanging around them and like them not being with the times. Like that's kind of gone. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Notre Dame and their impact on the college football playoff and just this season and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 8, got a little bit of a defensive juggernaut here in Utah. What do you think about that? I look at Utah at 8, like they don't belong, but like no games have been played, so like they're there. No further notice.
I can understand why it feels like they don't belong. Like I do understand it because there's a team that's to the right that after showing some people our top 25, they were also like they don't belong, and I get that. I get the notion that people have, but like these are 2 pretty good teams, and really you could stretch it out. The next 3 are really good teams, and they're not getting enough credit. Like they all have 3 like. I don't want to say all 3 actually before I say this, but Cam Rising coming back for his 17th college football season. He's in his Stetson Bennett, his Stetson Bennett years. They could low key make some noise, like for like being for real, because he's coming back. He knows the offense. He is going to be playing in the Big 12. I don't have the schedule and don't know it off the top of my head, but I can't imagine that it's going to be the most difficult thing of all time. So, like, I fully expect Utah to be, at the bare minimum, competing for the playoff. I think they'll be in it, personally. But honestly, if I'm having to pick somebody right now today to win the Big 12, I'm probably going to go with Utah. Seriously.
My pick is the team that's to their right, but I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But
I just think that with Cam Rising coming back, if he can stay healthy, that's a big if. There's another team in Kansas that has the same problem. If their quarterback can stay healthy, they could make some noise. They could be really good. But that's the thing.
Big 12 is that is a great way to put it, and I think the way to recap that is the Big 12 is a big mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Yet to be discovered about. It is wide open. And then, so the team to the right that we've been referencing at 9, this team has been ranked, I've seen it from 25 to unranked to where they are in ours. I mean,
you and I are just, we're really high on Arizona. But
yeah, I mean, it's the Arizona Wildcats. Obviously, Jetfish, Czar signing video in his house in Arizona to sign with Washington as to be their head coach. That was the first. That was kind of disrespectful by Washington, but it happened. Um, Arizona went out and hired Brenton Brennan from San Jose State, and they did not lose a whole lot, to be honest with you. They kept what they needed to. I mean, they kept McMillan, the demigod wide receiver. The guy can reach from here to the moon and catch football. And Fafita's still there. He revived their season last year after their loss to Mississippi State. And they added some guys via the portal to help with depth that they lost. With the Big 12 being so wide open and the momentum that they have, and like them not losing a whole lot, I'm cautiously optimistic that like the wins stacking up on each other will, like, there's not going to be too many L's for Arizona, and they'll look pretty good.
And I think they're going to be really good. I mean, with them being able to keep their quarterback and wide receiver duo, and then them also just not losing like too much to that move to Washington that their coach had. I mean, I think they could be, as you were saying, you think they're going to win the Big 12. I think they're going to be competing for that second to third place, and I don't think that's a problem at all. And if they can mess around and win the Big 12, I mean, there you go. They're one of the top, if we're going off of bids, I mean, they would be the top
They get a bye.
Yeah, they get a bye. I mean, they're one of the Power Four.
Mm-hmm. So, and then at 10, to continue our, thought earlier we had about schedule, Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri has, like, they could, to the very worst, they could sleep, I'm talking full-on, deep sleep snooze to 9-3. Which is a gift of all gifts if you could tell a coach, like, would you want to sleepwalk to 9-3? Like,
especially in the SEC. Especially in the SEC.
Yeah, especially a team that's not Alabama or Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So Eli Drinkwitz, to say last season was out of nowhere is not really too far off. I mean, they were like a 6 or 7 win team, and then all of a sudden they just pop off to 11 wins and beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. But Brady Cook, Luther Burden, they added some running back depth via the portal. They added a lot of offensive line depth via the portal. Added a lot of defensive guys via the portal. So there's a lot of momentum over there in Missouri. I mean, you got 5-star Williams Nawari coming in.
Mm-hmm.
He's could be a freshman impact, but Missouri has a really favorable schedule.
They do.
I mean, like, really favorable.
There's a world. I just want you to realize that there's a world where Ole Miss and Missouri is the SEC championship game. There is a, like, not the biggest possibility, but there is a possibility just due to scheduling, because Ole Miss's schedule is pretty easy too. Both of these teams, if they went 11-1, because Ole Miss plays Georgia, and that's about it. Missouri plays
A&M,
and Alabama.
Oklahoma.
Oh, they play Oklahoma?
And that's
okay, never mind.
That's really it.
Their schedule isn't as easy. But I believe that Missouri is going to beat A&M and Oklahoma. It's just me. If they win those 2 games and they're both 11-1, that's the SEC championship game. Because Georgia could mess around and lose to Texas, Bama. We could even lose to Ole Miss. I mean, we play all 3 of those games on the road, so it's there's a real possibility that Missouri Ole Miss is the SEC championship game. Do I think that's going to happen? No, but there's just a chance.
Mm-hmm. And then, on that note, we'll keep talking about the SEC. At 11, we have LSU. LSU completely cleared the house at defensive staff, to say the least, and
good by them.
They, probably the best move. They probably a no-brainer on a lot of people's opinion to part ways with Matt House, but they brought in Blake Baker from Missouri, who is one of the best young coaches. Gave him a really good salary. Hired a couple other coaches from Missouri to come in and fill the positional coaches spots, and then they rehired Corey Raymond, legendary DB coach. So they have a little bit of lack of depth at defensive tackle, but for just, I mean, how bad that, I mean, that defense couldn't stop a freaking runny nose last year. I mean, it was bad.
Well, I mean they especially in like that what was it, the Missouri game, or no, excuse me, it was the Ole Miss game. I mean they were scoring a lot of points, but I mean they literally just couldn't stop anything like it. And
Mm-mm.
that Ole Miss won that game, right?
They
Yeah,
did.
yeah. And even in the Missouri game, like LSU should have won that game pretty handedly, and they just couldn't stop Missouri. Now they did end up winning that game. I'm pretty sure it was
They
by
finally got a stop.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was by a pick six, and it made the score look a lot better than it was. But I mean, in late in the fourth quarter, they were only up 3, and Missouri had the ball. Like it's just I'm glad that Brian Kelly finally made a better decision than to adopt a fake Southern accent. Good for him. He finally got rid of that the whole defense. So we'll see. I know a lot of LSU people, and they've been a little loud. So we'll see.
Um, Pick up the pace a little bit. Number 12, we have the reigning national champions, Michigan. I mean, they lost so much to the draft. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is in the NFL. Their head coach is gone. I mean, Sharon Moore takes over after head coaching a couple of games, but I mean, that quarterback is such a question mark. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't go get one via the portal.
Yep.
Alex Orji is not the best passer.
Yeah, I asked my Michigan friend that I know about how he felt about the team, or really how he felt about Orgy, but the team in general. And his main thing was just like he didn't want to be too, he wasn't like the utmost confident in Orgy, but like it's not like he's a bad player or anything, but it's just like, you got to see it first, and that's kind of why we put Michigan at 12. Obviously, they're the reigning champions and all that stuff, and that's why they're not lower. But yes, they get their defense back, a lot of their defense back. It's just they're losing a lot on the offensive line. They're losing their quarterback. They're losing their starting running back. And yes, they have Donovan Edwards, but it's a lot of stuff to replace. Like I believe if you look at the numbers, they're like 130th out of 134 for returning production. So it's really just a filler for a we got to see it. That's why they're at 12.
I mean, Michigan, they adapted. I mean, they ran the ball like 28 consecutive times. It's Penn State.
It was like 30.
Won the game.
It was like 30 over 30 something. That game made me
It was
mad. That made me mad.
historic. It was historic.
That
So,
game alone should never allow Penn State to be in the top 20. But anyways,
yeah, we'll get to Penn
we'll
State
get
here
to
in a second.
that.
Yeah, we'll get to Penn State here in a second. But at number 13, we have the snub of all snubs from last year. Take it with how you want. That's in the past. But Florida State, Seminoles, they got DJU from Oregon State. They pre-ordered a couple of packages from Alabama. Got a lot of Alabama players. And Mike Norvell did a good job in the portal. They've got some high school recruits that are, starting to bloom. But with the ACC being how the ACC is, I mean, there's no mighty Clemson anymore.
No.
I mean, downfall of Dabo is here, so the new face of the ACC is FSU.
You think
And
so?
That's why they're, yeah, I mean, as of right now, the face of the ACC is FSU.
I mean, if Clemson walks out there and beats us week 1, I mean, I think Clemson would still be the face, honestly. I mean,
If they do that, one, I would be very shocked.
I would be too.
Two, I would probably fear God for the rest of teams that have to play Georgia. And three, I would hate to see Dabo kind of win this narrative of, oh, I don't need to adapt. Because, like, I'm not saying I want him to lose. I mean, I'm not, like, that type of person. But it's just, like, at this point with how many transfers out he has, I mean, he's literally, like, they don't have a full scholarship roster. I don't think like they're missing a couple of good handful of players that they could have. So
Yeah.
that's that. And then 14 we got Tennessee. Josh Heupel's speedy offense. Nico era is here. They got a super underrated wide receiver in Chris Brazel, the second from Tulane. Squirrel White returns. Brew McCoy is in his 19th year of college football. He's at Tennessee. Um, they have some questions on the O-line. Obviously, on the defense, Tyler Barron did his little portal exploration. He's at Miami. He left. James Pierce, the sack god, is still there. They had a couple of departures and draft picks from their defense, but they should be fine. And then
There's a
Tennessee's just
there's a real
Tennessee,
chance
man.
yeah, there's a real chance that they have the number 1 overall pick next year for the draft. I mean,
Yeah,
that guy's incredible.
James Pierce is, I mean,
He's so good.
yeah, that is an edge factory over there. So
And
definitely keep James.
yeah, and for any Tennessee fans that think that they should be higher, I'm not against that. It's more of in the fact of like, we're putting you here. We just need to see it. Not that you can't do it. Not that you're not that. Not that you couldn't beat a Missouri. Not that you couldn't beat a Florida State. Not that you couldn't beat a Michigan. It's just more of like, we got to see it. It's just the games will tell. You know. But I think this is a good ranking. A good spot for Tennessee, right in the middle.
Yeah. And then 15 we got Clemson. I mean, to be honest with you, if I could just do a completely like my opinion ranking and like be a little bit silly and unserious, I would not have Clemson ranked. I
Really?
mean, their offense last year with Garrett Riley and how much they paid him, I mean, it was like beyond rock bottom bad. I mean, like it looked like they could not beat a high school JV team. Like Cade Klubnik he's got to show some improvement. And I don't really take much away from spring games, but my God, their spring game was not pretty.
And you've been saying that, or you were saying that right after it happened, and I went back and watched it, and I was like, ooh, yeah, I see what you mean. Which I mean, last year you also got to consider. I mean, they almost messed around and beat Florida State. So, which granted, that game was at Death Valley, right?
I don't remember, but
I think it was. I think that's why it was so close.
I mean, Clemson's defense is always going to be Clemson's defense. I mean, Peter Woods, I always say this, if there could be a 6-star recruit in the transfer portal, Peter Woods is a 6-star recruit. Like he is a man in a almost man body.
Where'd he come from?
Where did he come from? Thompson High School in Alabama.
You know what? That makes sense. That makes sense.
So, yeah, he is destined to break out and will have a great NFL career one day. But Peter Woods is the anchor of their defense, and they got T.J. Parker on the edge. Just Dabo recruits like these grown men like so well. But you hate to see them lose with all that good talent, and them not taking in any transfers to like help aid them from slipping. So, you know, this is a huge year for Dabo. I mean, people are calling the shots at him. I mean, they're putting his cards in. They're putting their cards in, excuse me, for him to fail.
Yep.
So, this year is going to be a huge turning point in the, vibe for Clemson, the, high King of the Hill era. They struggle, and I think they went like 8-4 last year. If they go 8-4 this year and like kind of go up and down like they did last year, I mean, like it's not gonna be the same. Back-to-back 8-4 seasons is, we're really falling off here for Clemson. So that's that. And then at 16, we have another team that's kind of like Clemson, Penn State. Drew Aller, once a 5-star prospect, does not look like that anymore. They have one wide receiver in why am I drawing it? But Julian Fleming. Julian Fleming transferred from Ohio State to Penn State. Was a huge recruiting battle in high school for him between the two. Ultimately, the last year of service is at Penn State. And then behind that, they have like a sophomore and a freshman, and then they have some dudes from the parking lot. Like their wide receiver depth is like zero.
Yeah, don't even get me started, dude. I would have put Penn State lower, honestly, if I wasn't trying to be respectful to
Their defense
any
is just so
fans.
good.
It is, but my God, is their
Like Abdul
offense
Carter
pitiful.
is he's really good. So
I
I was
mean,
at the Peach Bowl, Ole Miss versus Penn State. I was just looking for Drew Aller just to like show some improvement passing. I mean, like Ole Miss's defense was not the best by any means. Go around, have fun, swing the rock, and like he did not have a pass that was a legitimate pass to a wide receiver until like halfway through the third quarter. Like it was baffling.
yeah, dude, because we're trying to run a two quarterback system. Because my God, I mean, they can't. Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, if Drew Aller didn't have that one mistake play where his tight end caught like a tip pass off somebody's like helmet or something, like
Yeah.
that that whole game would have been viewed completely different. So, um, Penn State is Penn State. James Franklin is James Franklin. He's going to go 10-2 and lose the two biggest games of the season. It's how it's been for a long time now. So, um, they do have a new offensive coordinator. They hired Andy Kolnicki from Kansas, who was like the OC of the year or something. He's very highly praised. So, um, hopefully Drew Aller can prove me wrong, which I'm all for, and go put up some numbers this season. And there's a lot of people saying he's high in the NFL draft. I mean, like from the production he's had on the
Absolutely
field,
not.
like absolute, like he is like there. People are like mocking him like top five, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
I mean, that's worse than Bo Nix. That's the
Nah,
worst. Well, actually,
there's
I'll give Bo the
there's
benefit of
pros
the
and
doubt.
cons.
I'll give Bo the benefit of the doubt. That'd be a worse pick than Bo Nix. If he's that high, that's crazy. That's crazy.
But to keep moving, at 17 we have Miami. Now Miami is a team that is all in to win this year. There's a few of them on here, but Mario Cristobal is very much being zeroed in on, I won't call it fraud watch, but his ability to coach at an elite level, get paid what he does, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because after that Georgia Tech debacle and how everybody went and digged up, oh wait, he did this at Oregon too and lost the game. Like it really hasn't been the same vibe since. So
Mm-hmm.
Mario's got a point to prove, and they've got the roster to do it. I mean, they got Cam Ward, got Sam Brown, a wide receiver from Houston, transferred over in the spring. I mean, they've got Ruben Bain, Tyler Barron, the transfer from Tennessee I mentioned earlier. That 1-2 punch on the edge versus a not the greatest offensive line in Florida week one. That Miami Florida game is going to be freaking stellar to
It is.
watch. And I think Andy Staples on three. He refers to it as the pitchforks and torches bowl. I think it's the best way you can refer to it because whoever loses, the fan base will absolutely melt down, like
Oh, 100%.
forever.
The space that's gonna happen on Twitter for the losing team is gonna be hilarious, and I will be in there no matter what.
Like
I will be
they
listening.
can win 11 straight games and it will not matter
No.
because they lost against Florida or Miami or whatever each way around. So it is going to be a scene of all scenes to see the reaction of what occurs week one in Gainesville, in a notoriously hot and humid environment on 3:30 in late August in
Oh yeah.
Gainesville. So we saw that got the best of Utah. So
Mm-hmm.
let's see if a team that's from the state can handle it. That's Miami, and then at 18 we have Texas A&M. Texas A&M comes in, obviously, um, Mark Stoops' debacle on Twitter was legendary, to say the least. They thought they were hiring Mark Stoops, and then Mark Stoops thought he was getting hired, and then apparently there was something miscommunicated between the people at A&M, to my understanding, and they ultimately went and hired their former DC, Mike Elko, which I think was the best hire, safe move, and I'm not even really getting year one vibes from A&M. Like, they've got a really good I mean, Mike Elko went in, and I'm pretty sure he wasted like no time. Like, he got straight to the portal,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well, he had to. I mean, they were,
yeah,
they were losing a lot of people. I mean, he had to.
yeah. I mean, obviously they lost some of their star-studded recruits that Jimbo had, with all those 5 stars, but just from what he returned, like, I don't feel like they fell off too much. I mean, you can, like, stars wise, yes, but like production wise, like, still, like, they've got really good players. Like, for example, like Will Lee is a defensive back transfer. A&M had to completely revamp their secondary. I mean, they got torched, like, as much as possible. People throwing the ball last year, like, it was not pretty. So Will Lee is a great cornerback transfer. He's highly sought after in the portal. A&M won the battle for his services, and I mean, it's just like guys like that. They just stacked them on top of each other. Retained a couple of guys. Shamar Stewart,
Yes.
great defensive lineman, still at A&M. I mean,
They're still poised to be good. I agree. They're still poised to be good.
And that game versus Notre Dame week 1, college game day is going. It's gonna be fun.
Did they play Notre Dame week 1? Oh yeah,
college game day is going. It's in College Station.
I was getting confused with the Georgia Tech and Florida State game.
That's all good. But at 19.
Hey, can I stop you real quick? For these next few,
yeah, you can.
We just crossed the hour mark, so for these next few, we could just rattle them off kind of quick, because we still got a whole nother segment to do.
We do. All right. So at 19, we have Louisville. Louisville was portal, very active, portal heavy. Jack Plummer is not there anymore. They got Tyler Sal from Texas Tech, experienced quarterback, and a lot of other people via the portal. So, they were in the ACC championship game last year. They are definitely one of the teams in the ACC to watch. And that's pretty much it. I mean, pretty much just a whole you got to watch and see era from Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And then for 20 to 25, I'll just kind of rattle these off. So at 20, UCF, 21, Oklahoma, 22, NC State, 23, Kansas State, 24, SMU, and 25, USC.
And I think out of all of those, the most interesting one, honestly, is UCF. And that's kind of why we have them at the highest. But, like, what they've done in the portal, and I know that it's going to be talked about in a little bit, but they are a sneaky good team. Sneaky good. And maybe not even sneaky. Honestly. Maybe they're just that good, just up front with what they've done.
We'll see. I'm excited. But, yeah. Okay, that was our deep dive in depth to the top 25. Hopefully y'all didn't fall asleep during that. But now for the next segment, we have our 3 teams that improved the most from either the portal or just, people that are ready to blossom, recruiting, whatever you want to call it. The 3 teams that myself and Chandler chose individually, so they're different teams, that are the most improved overall heading into next season. And I'll let you go first, Chandler.
Let me just name all 3 of mine real quick.
You can name and then give like a reason or two. I wasn't going to take too long just because I went really in depth from the top 25. But
I won't. I'll just rattle my 3 off, and I won't take too long on them. My first one, I'm going to go with Miami. With them having the 5th best class in the country It was the best class in the ACC, and them also picking up Cam Ward and having an easy schedule outside of Louisville and Florida State in back-to-back weeks. I think that Miami is really poised to make a really good run in that ACC. Now, obviously, they're going to have to deal with Clemson at some point because I think that Clemson is going to be up there too. I'm not the biggest fan of DJU, so that's why I'm not exactly saying Florida State here, even though they are the highest ranked out of all the ACC teams that we have. But Miami, for sure, for me, was one of the most improved teams. And for my second team, I have Boise State. Now, you might be like, Boise State? What? Boise State? But if you look at them over the past 5 years, they've had some pretty good records, but they just added Malachi Nelson and Chris Marshall. And for me, I believe that Boise State is going to pick up the at-large bid for the group of 5 teams. Would it technically be group of 6 since now we kind of have the Pac-2?
Dude, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so confusing. But
Is the Pac-2 even, do they even count anymore?
I mean,
none of those teams okay. If this goes somewhere, I'd be damned. But unless pigs can fly, I don't. Oh Jesus! I'm hesitant to say this because I'm thinking about their schedules and it's pretty easy. I don't think either of the Pac-2 teams are going to they're probably not going to make the playoff or be very relevant to say the least. So
yeah.
I guess
I'm calling it a group of 5. I'm calling it a group of 5. That's not a conference. They're playing the Mountain West schools. That's not a conference.
Yeah. I mean,
they're basically in the Mountain West at this point.
Yeah, Yeah, you're right. But go ahead and continue.
But yeah, Malachi Nelson and Chris Marshall, adding them, I think that they could be the best group of 5 team. And then for me, we said 3 teams, but I wanted to use this third slot to shout out 2 teams that I thought improved the most over this offseason. And it is 2 teams that are highly ranked. It's Oregon and Ole Miss. But the reason I'm giving them a shout out is because they've never made the college football playoff. I know Oregon has never won a championship, and I don't believe Ole Miss has won one in the last.
Oregon made the playoff, or no? Did they make the?
They made the BCS? They made the playoff. Excuse me, but they have never won a championship. That was my whole point. That they've never won a championship. Has Ole Miss won a championship? They've won one.
Nope.
Okay, then good. 2 teams that have never won a championship, and I believe both of these teams are going to make a good run in the college football playoff. Not saying that they're going to play each other in the championship, but I think that they could easily make it out of the first round and play in one of those big bowl games that is tied into the college football playoffs. And I think they both had the best transfer portal windows, or the good Lord, I'm getting caught in my words. I think they both had the best portal off seasons in the portal. There we go. That was really hard to say. But shout out to Oregon fans, shout out to Ole Miss fans. I think that finally this could be the year where you really compete for a championship. Because if you look at the top, there's a lot of questions. Georgia has a lot of questions after not being able to even beat Alabama last year. Ohio State has quarterback questions. Alabama has head coach questions. Whether you want to, say it or not, I mean, they still do technically. They just lost the greatest coach of all time. Texas has defensive questions with people are questioning their quarterback. So this could be the year. Could be the year.
I see your vision. So I'll go ahead and rattle through my 3 teams that improved. I mentioned it earlier. Chandler alluded to it. UCF. UCF is a very fun school, certified fun school, as you might see CFH tweet on the timeline. The bounce house is bouncing and rocking. They have a 2-headed monster in. Why am I forgetting their starting running back's name? It's right on the tip of my tongue. They got Penny Boone via the portal, who was the number 8 rusher in the nation from Toledo. And then I gotta look this up. This is embarrassing. RJ Harvey. There we go. RJ Harvey had a great season at UCF last year. And he's back. They got a real deal quarterback in KJ Jefferson. John Reese Plumlee was a great athletic quarterback. He was very serviceable and all the things. But KJ is, and they got some wide receiver depth. Kobe Hudson comes back. They got Jacoby Jones from Ohio. Got some up and coming prospects. But one thing that I will say to end off UCF is they've been very quietly building on that defensive line through high school recruiting. So there's a couple of sophomores that pop out this year. Don't be surprised. Now, my next team is NC State. NC State, they were a big portal winner, getting Grayson McCall because they needed a quarterback after the Brendan Armstrong experiment last year. And they got a center from Notre Dame, and NC State is a well-coached team, so expecting the ACC is wide open. NC State is, people like to, the value that they're at on the, betting odds. Everything about them is positive as, going into the season. So that was one of my teams. And the last was A&M, Texas A&M. I don't get first-year vibes from Mike Elko. He hired a very experienced staff. He's been experienced in College Station. Connor Wigman, 5-star quarterback, returns. They didn't lose the world. They lost some stars, but they didn't lose the world because they had so many stars.
Yep.
And their schedule is pretty good. So, A&M, just for the sheer secondary, upgrade and, amount of effort, I could see the direction change from, star ratings to, actual production and, good, legit talent acquisition. Oh, my God, I cannot pronounce that.
I had the same problem.
I am very optimistic about A&M this season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be the bearer of bad news, we do each have one team that will disappoint.
Yeah, you can go ahead and say yours first.
I guess I will go ahead. Without further ado, my team is Wisconsin. Now, you might ask yourself, Wisconsin, disappoint. Yes, they might have not been projected to do incredibly great things this season, but the hire of Luke Fickell was very hyped. He was the most sought after G5 coach from Cincinnati, obviously brought Cincy to the playoff. It has not been sunshine and rainbows in Madison, to say the least. And in fact, there has not been a whole lot of momentum. They got Tyler Van Dyke via the portal. Tyler Van Dyke had his highs at Miami. He had his, but to say the least, I am very questionable about Wisconsin this year. They play Alabama when it's either week 2 or week 3. It's already a big noon kickoff. Not that it really matters, but there's nothing that pops out to me about Wisconsin.
There's not.
That offense with Phil Longo, I think Phil Longo's offense has been just outdated. He lost a step. He's been in the game for a while, but that's my team that I think will disappoint. People were high on the Luke Fickell era in Wisconsin. I'm not buying it after what I saw last year. Who's your team, Chandler?
For me, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, I really don't. And I know we have a couple friends that are, really high on the future of this team, and, they could make some noise if they got a certain player, maybe. But Colorado, man, there's just been so much hype about this team over the past 2 years, and I think they're just gonna lay an egg, and I don't see them there's a real possibility that they start the season out 1-3 after playing North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, and Baylor. And I couldn't tell you which game they're going to win. Honestly. Being so serious when I say that, I couldn't tell you which game they'd win. probably North Dakota State. But again, it's not like North Dakota State's some kind of pushover FCS team. So, considering the fact that their schedule is not easy at all, I mean, after they play Baylor, they play UCF, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and finish the season with Oklahoma State. I want you to find me 6 wins in that schedule because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't. I don't see them making another bowl game, and I don't know. People are very high on this team, and the hype all around it, and I don't agree with it. Like I understand, obviously it's Dion. I love Dion. He played for my Falcons. I have so much love for Dion, and it'd be cool if he was successful. It'd be so cool to see a program that was 1-10 or 1-11 turn around and in 2 years be 9-3, 10-2. That'd be awesome. They're in the playoffs. You know how much publicity they'd get for Boulder, for Colorado, for everything with that school. I don't see it happening, and I'm not that high that it's going to happen this year. Maybe next year if they get a better schedule, better draw of a schedule, who knows? But I'm just not that confident, and I hate to beat a dead horse, but I don't think Colorado's going to make a bowl game this year. I just don't.
Well, there you have it.
Sorry, Maury.
Games will be played, and takes will be brought up again from the past. And if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. You will. Regardless, somebody will hear it.
Yeah.
So, well, that's really all. That's really all I think we got right now. At the moment, it's peak recruiting season.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan just landed a 4-star defensive lineman.
Shout out you.
Yeah, shout out Michigan. And it's June. I keep forgetting I got to do my Billy Napier tracker. I think I'm a couple days late. But
Alabama but they got Michael Carroll. So,
offensive lineman.
Yep. Shout out to
they did get him this
Shout out to the Bama boys.
They said he'd be Husky Harsin. They said Kalen DeBoer would be Husky Harsin. Boy, were there the Auburn Barners, were they wrong?
Boy, oh boy, not looking good in the barn.
He's recruiting, so got to keep an eye on that. But that is all we have for you today. If y'all enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to the channel. We are just getting started here, and with the more rumblings and news that comes out in the football world, more content and the more we will be on here. So it's kind of wait and see mode until season through the summer. But follow us on Twitter at CFB Headlines, on Instagram at CFB Headlines, and shortly I think there will be a TikTok being made here, probably at CFB Headlines. Mm-hmm. That username is available. But give us a follow as we grow. And thank you all for tuning in.
And also follow the Instagram. Instagram under the same name. We're doing a countdown every day until college football begins with the game in Dublin, Ireland. So be sure to keep up with that. In the comments of those videos, you can recommend if you want a certain player for a certain day or a certain number or a certain play. If it matches up with the yardage, or if it matches up with the day and the yard number, we may use that. Follow me too on Twitter at Chandler, CHXNLUH. It's in the bio of the College Football Headlines Twitter account, so it's easy to find. But like Tate said, thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate it a lot. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and let us know what else you'd love to see. And we'll see you next time.